now time for Monster Soup, with your really fun at parties host, Dave Spencer, and his level-headed co-host, Brian McKinney. These dudes will explore all the crazy mysteries roaming our forest and deserted hallways. After all, monsters are real. It's Monster Soup time right now. Get it while it's hot. And now your hosts, Dave and Brian.
What's up, Soup folks? Super. Welcome to Monster Soup, a kitchen and conversation of cryptids, misfits, and these kids. I'm David Spencer, your golden retriever host, and with me as always is, I never thought of a name for you this week. We'll call him the bastard bungalow of Brickshire, the roamer of the halls, Mr. Brian McKinney. I had the most time with you before this, and I was like running around doing 100 other things.
Yeah, and in fact, I was going to ask you then, but I decided to wait because I didn't want to spoil it. But for the last few minutes while you've been running around getting things ready, and I've just been sitting here, you have repeatedly been singing the same two songs. And I want to know how you got, I mean, don't get me wrong, these are some classic bangers. Jefferson Starship, Sarah, and Steve Perry's Oh Sherry, which, like I said, bangers all the way. But you've started and stopped singing them multiple times. So I'm like, were you listening to like the greatest hits of the mid-'80s or what's going on?
Absolutely was not. For some reason, Sarah is such an earworm for me. Like I literally will sing it nonstop for no reason whatsoever, to the chagrin of my wife about any of these things that I do. But she's just like, why is that song in your head? I'm like, no idea. She's like, did you hear it recently? I'm like, nope, it's just in my head. Sarah constantly goes in my head because it's just like I forget wait, how's it go? Sarah, Sarah. It's fun to say it, and it's I like to say it loud. And then Oh Sherry is also the same kind of like flowy, like Whoa Sherry. It's fun to sing that song. So
I mean, yeah,
and there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, I just thought, maybe you would listen to him or, kind of what brought that on.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty fun, just totally random. And that not only did you just sing them individually, but then you repeatedly sang each one of them as you changed, with your ADHD, as you changed, bouncing back and forth, that you were rotating between the songs.
It was in a constantly. It was like those old CD changers that you had to put in your trunk for some reason. Because I don't know why that was where they decided to put that. Like my friend went to go get his change his CD and he opened his trunk. I'm like, but that's not where your body is. Why would it be in the trunk? I don't know. It's just where it is. They're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Your CDs are in your trunk.
Yeah. I mean, you were totally like, I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. And I was like, okay. And as I hear you run away, you're just like, oh, Sherry. You come back and you're like, oh, I gotta text this thing from work. And you're like, Sarah. Like you're just randomly doing tasks and started like singing songs for the tasks.
I don't know what anybody else is doing in their life, but I'm in a constant jukebox mode. And it's just the only thing stopping me is the silence that everybody else wants, but listen, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, give it time. If I wasn't on a podcast, and I don't know if there's like a copyright laws like of whether I'm singing it or anything. Like I don't know if I can sing like an entire song without getting like flagged for something.
I think you can only do like 4 or 5 seconds before you get.
I think I want to say it's like 15 seconds. You're allowed to like. I could be wrong. I don't know. Before that, you have to like pay.
And it might not count if you're singing way off key and stuff. So it might,
Yeah, they're like, we didn't even register this as a song. I just want to recognize the chat real quick. Hello, Kim Kincaid, and hello, Joanne. Just want to say hello. They also said hello. But yeah. So this week we are talking. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It is Friday if you're joining us live. And it's 5:00, so get your cocktails ready. We're talking about spooky stuff today, and my favorite little topic, because we went to the Mansfield Reformatory and had the best time talking about that stuff. And then but yeah, other than that, I mean, we just pretty chill week for me. You get to anything this week?
I did. Busy work week, but I took a reprieve from that, and I took the kids my son and my daughter, both college age, and we went down to Cleveland Stadium and saw the Kings of Hard Rock, AC/DC, on Wednesday night at Cleveland Brown Stadium. It was awesome. I mean, those old guys can still bring it, man. It was so fun.
I love a screamy lead singer, and he is the king of that. Just like, I've never not talked like this.
I know.
I just love it.
My kids are like, it sounds just like the record. And I'm like, yeah, but when the singer, gargles gravel before he goes into the studio, it's not hard to replicate that.
My very first karaoke experience was me going up to sing Back in Black. Mm-hmm. And that was the moment that I realized, as the words were coming up, or as the melody started coming up, that I was not aware of the lyrics of Back in Black. For some reason, my brain went blank, and obviously they come up on the screen, but I couldn't catch the melody, and I was just like, Back in Black, I hate the sack, and then I was just like, and I lost the thread of the melody, and then
dissipate away,
So, and then I tried to bring it back to the hook when the hook came back, and I was just like, and the lady was just like, no, thank you. I sat down in shame. I was like, this sucked. I didn't have a good time. And then it took me a couple of years to build back my confidence to do it again. And then I was like, I'll just do a different song. I listened to it at nauseum. I do actually, it's like an incredible skill that I'm not every musician's not sitting there with their phone and lyrics in front of them. I'm gonna sing this song to you real quick. It's just insane to me. I remember even hearing somebody said they made a song, and they were like, I'll think of songs, and if they're not good, if I don't remember them by the time I get to the studio, I deem them not good enough to be a song. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even remember things that I said last week, let alone an entire thing that I created. That's insane. But some people are just talented, and I get it. I just thought that was insane.
Yeah. It was great, and it had rained all day. It was supposed to rain, but they said it was going to clear up, but it was just gloomy, and so I ended up getting tickets. I bought tickets that day because I was supposed to travel for work, and that fortunately fell through. So I bought tickets last minute, and because it was supposed to rain, I'm like, I'm going to buy tickets as high up as we can to get under the overhang, from the stadium. So if it's pouring rain, we're not sitting there in the pouring rain. Plus, for the beginning of summer, it was highs in the mid 50s. For the day, so I'm like, it's going to be cold and in the rain.
A balmy 50.
Yeah. So it was I'll try to mitigate it as much as I can. So we ended up, sitting up pretty high up the top, which didn't even matter. And then it fortunately didn't end up raining, but it was so gloomy, and there was this ceiling of fog that was just above the stadium, where you couldn't even see the tops of the buildings in town. And I was sitting on the lakeside, so I'm facing downtown. And you couldn't see the tops of the building. So it then, as the lights from the stage went up in the air, it was reflecting off this ceiling that had this really creepy vibe to it. And it's just every now and again, the tops of the buildings would, as they lit up, would kind of peek out a little bit. And Claire was like, it looks like you're like a Batman movie, like you're looking at Gotham City. It was so spooky and creepy. And then you're just, hearing, and everybody's just going crazy. Just hit after hit, and it got to the end, and my son was just like, "What do you think they're even going to play for an encore? They've played every single song I even know by them, And I'm like, no, because I had ahead of time had looked at the set list, so I knew what they were going to close with, and I'm like, oh no, they still got a couple more, and they're some of the best ones, and they closed with TNT, and for those about to rock with the big cannon, going off at the end. And then a huge, great big fireworks show. It was awesome.
What if they ended with B-sides? No one wanted a ballad. You're like, what the heck?
So they've never even written a ballad. I remember in an interview, years ago, somebody was interviewing Angus Young, and he was at one point, somebody wrote an article. It was probably Rolling Stone or something. And they said, well, AC/DC's made 11 albums that sound exactly the same. And he was like, I took, great offense to that. We've actually made 12 albums that sound exactly the same.
That rules.
But it was just one hit after the next, but it was fantastic. But
I actually,
I didn't realize that it was the last show of the American leg of the tour, and then they're going to Europe to do some shows. So it wasn't like a farewell tour. but I mean, they only come around every handful of years, and it very well could have been the last American show they ever do.
I mean, the one guy went in retirement and then came out. So
one of them's dead, and I mean, Brian Johnson, the singer, is 77. I mean, he's like my dad's age, and Angus is like the youngest of like the original band, and he's 70. But other than the white hair, he looks like like an old librarian or science teacher or something. But I mean, he still brought it and did his duck walk all over the stage and got down on the ground and spun around and did all the things he did when he was 20. It was just an old man's body.
When I was a kid, I saw AC/DC live, and it was wild because Angus does a weird thing with his mouth when he plays, and it's like a chomp. And I was like, why you look like that? The whole time, because he literally just is like he just literally chomps. Like it's like the top of his head becomes like amoebic, and it just kind of like lets it kind of go. And I'm just kind of like, what the heck? And I'm just like, this was never apparent in the videos. And then like after I saw that, I like was watching, I was like, oh, he does it in the videos. They don't like stand him long enough to like watch him do it. But I'm like, he did it the whole time. But I was gonna say
it's so funny too, because he's such a little guy. He's like 5'2", and when he stands there with his guitar, if you stood his guitar vertical, like he'd barely be bigger than the guitar.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why he wears schoolboy clothes. The only thing they can get him to fit. He's like, I'll just wear this. I can always find a schoolboy outfit. Yeah. But I remember seeing a video of the guy from what's the band? The Killers. And he goes, and he starts the show and he goes, you guys want to know how many hits we have? And then he plays Mr. Brightside for the first song. And I was just like, like that's their like big hit. I mean, like if you think of the Killers, like that would be like the first song. And I was just like, oh my God, they're playing like their hit first song. And I was just like, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, they have like 1,000 hits, and they're like not that old of a band. They're like 2020. They're not 2020, like 2007, I think, when they came out or something like that. I remember seeing them in the OC. But yeah, that's just rules. Heck yeah, man. Well, I didn't.
It was a blast, and the kids got to see their old man acting like I was a teenager again, which they always love.
Yeah. You skateboarded into the show with like sunglasses on. You're like, "What's up, dudes? What's up, fellow youths?"
I'm seeing all these old guys, busted out their old jeans jackets with the patches all over them, and I'm looking at my son, who totally dressed exactly like I would have dressed back in like 1992, full on Canadian tuxedo, jeans jacket that matched his pants. He didn't have any patches or anything. Mustache for days. And so every time I would see one of these jackets with the patches on it, I was like, that's weak, man. You should have seen my jacket back in the day. And nobody beat my brother Scott's jacket. I mean, that dude, it didn't look like there was even denim there. It was just straight patches.
It was a jacket all embroidered.
Yeah.
And full embroidered jacket.
Yeah. I mean, mine was epic, but his was legendary status. But and in fact, I think he still has his. I don't have mine anymore. My wife threw that away 30 years ago.
She threw it away. That's like the one thing you should keep.
I know.
That's like having like records, like like they're never gonna go bad, even if you don't use them.
I got rid of those on my CDs. My epic collection of cassettes. I got Spotify.
Well, those you can get rid of. Yeah. Until the EMT, or is it EMT? The electronic pulse, whatever thing hits us one day, and we're like, wait a minute. There's going to be one hoarder who has all of them. We can just borrow a record from him.
A record.
Yeah, I have this pile of CDs that I'm like, why do I have you still? Like, I don't even have a CD player, and I'm just like, you never know. Like, it's just one of those, like, it doesn't take up much room. I'll just keep it in this drawer. And I'm like, I could easily just toss these away. I don't even know if half of them work, or like most of them skipped, or my favorite songs. They're just like, like, oh. I remember like I had a CD that like almost since the moment I had it had a skip and a very, very good song. But if you got like past that part, you could listen to the song. And I remember like I had Spotify, and I was just like, oh, I can finally listen to that song without skipping it. Like, so I was just like enjoying that.
You're so conditioned to it when it didn't skip on Spotify. You're like, is this the real song? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. I was over at a friend's house, and we were listening about Marley, and then all of a sudden, like, it got to a song that I knew how to skip it in my CD, and it started playing, and it started skipping on that song. I was like, wait a minute. is this my CD? And they're like, yeah, you left it here like a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, oh man.
Speaking of music, I just saw on the news this afternoon that all is right in the world now. Taylor Swift has bought back her catalog of all of her music. She owns all of her own music now, so we can all sleep easy at night.
Yeah, well, that one guy who she hated owned all of her masters, and that's why she was re-releasing stuff, because she was like, I don't even want him to get any money off of my masters. Like Taylor's version all the way. Listen, I'm Swiftie. It's cool. Get down with it. Listen, watch the Eras tour with your daughter and just vibe with it and dance in the halls because it's good. Listen to my favorite song, which is Holy Ground, which is amazing, and just dance it up. It's a good time. Okay, so we will get to our
the topic at hand.
Our thing at hand. Our topic at hand, which is like I said, we went to the Mansfield Reformatory last week.
I'm wearing the shirt we got. Wait, did you hear that?
Wait, did you hear that? Oh, did I grab my phone? I did. Okay. But so we went in there, and by the way, I can't recommend, if you live in the Ohio area, even if you get nothing, zero things, it is just cool to be able to be in a building that is so old, like for a time frame that like you just kind of, you can stay there as long as you want and just like look around. It was so cool just to be in a historical building. I love historical buildings in general, and we were able to just fully like just tour that place in any kind of aspect of it. We went with people who kind of been there a few times, so we can get like the history of it. But they did offer a tour, which we originally we were like, yeah, we'd like to go on the tour. Then like by the time it started, I was like, I don't need a tour. I have two people who have been here 1,000 times. They can tell me everything that I need to know. I don't need some like stranger to be like, this was built in 1923. Like whatever.
And when I was talking to people from work about it, they were like, oh, did you do like the ghost tour or whatever? And so I kept saying, I'm like, well, we didn't do like an actual tour, like where you pay and somebody walks you around. Now they offered to do that for us just so we had like the lay of the land. Yeah. But it was just like, we showed up, we had dinner and they were like, you can go anywhere you want. You got to be out by 3. Like that was pretty much like the extent of the rules, and we could go anywhere we wanted. There was nobody with us. It was just free reign. You could have just went in one of the cells and, taken a 3-hour nap if you wanted to. Like you could have, there was nobody guiding us around. We were straight on our own, with nothing but a flashlight in the pitch black.
Yeah. And I want to give some people some history about the place. It's in Mansfield, Ohio. Obviously, it was constructed in 1886, but it opened in 1896. It closed in 1990 due to overcrowding and inhumane conditions. So, even from when we were in there, which would have been 30 years later, it was probably too small, right? I can't imagine being obviously like it's prison and that's kind of how it is, but like it was really tiny. I couldn't tell you what exactly the inhumane conditions specifically were, but maybe it was just falling apart.
It might have just been all the lead paint and asbestos.
yeah. I know. So, it's like a first time offender place too. So, but it's the architecture style is Victorian Gothic, lots of stonework, beautiful building, honestly. And then, it was originally built as a reformatory for young first-time offenders, and intended to be a place of rehabilitation, not punishment. It housed more than 155,000 inmates, and it was active over a bunch of years. It is known specifically for the filming of the Shawshank Redemption, and then also movies like Tango and Cash, Air Force One, and Lil Wayne's Go DJ video. which fun fact. By the way, I feel like I looked that up during and I couldn't find I couldn't find out who the person was. I didn't realize it was Lil Wayne. But there's a line of cells and they all look like normal cells. And all of a sudden you get to one and it has a lock on the front of it. And that lock is gold. And then you go inside and then the sink is gold. And then you look to the right of it and the toilet is gold. So there's a gold toilet, a gold sink, and a gold lock on the door. And you're just like, oh, and then you find out there's like a rap video filmed there. I was like, it's so funny.
And I think it was, wasn't the inside of the cell like painted red or something? I thought it was different than.
It was dark, so I don't really know.
Yeah, it was hard to tell, but I thought it wasn't just regular cell color. I think it was painted red or something.
You're probably right.
It was like all this other just regular old rusted up, ratty old cells. And then there's this one with a gold toilet. It was like, oh, they filmed a rap video here.
Yeah, it's very funny. But yeah, I mean, it's very rusted, and we just kind of walked around. Obviously we had lunch and stuff there, and it was really cool just experience. Like I said, if you're gonna definitely try one, if you can get to it, it's known as like the most haunted place in America. For whatever reason, there's over 200 documented deaths. Suicide, disease, murders, prison riots, the whole shebang.
Mm-hmm. One guy lit himself on fire in the cell.
Yeah, one guy. There's a plaque of a guy who lit himself on fire. Solitaires. The hole was notorious for extreme conditions that led to madness and death. Probably like any other place. But was it the warden's wife had died in the place from a gunshot wound that accidentally went off, stuff like that. So
yeah, she got shot there. I think she died in the hospital a couple days later, but she was shot in their quarters in prison.
From what the one lady told us, it was an accident, like it was loaded and she didn't know and she dropped it, right?
Yeah, I think she was reaching for something in the closet and it fell out and went off or something.
Yeah,
I don't think it was like an intentional, like she was trying to harm herself. At least my impression was that it was an accident.
Yeah, and so within that, some people have the smell of roses or perfume in the halls, and unseen hands touching guests. Victorian clothing, what you'd really want. And then there's a place called the chapel, called the chapel, the chapel. This strange place called the chapel. People have a feeling of being watched, or cold spots, disembodied voices, whispers, and stuff like that. And then there was the pit, which we went into. We spent a decent amount of time in the pit, I think. There's rumors that there's like skeleton, or there's bodies under there that are buried. We spent some time there, but we didn't really get anything down there. But for the time that we were there, we were just kind of, I think I went back there like 3 times, just get some readings. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really done, like, I've listened to my recordings, but like I haven't listened to them with headphones on yet, like to like really dissect, like Ghost Hunter style.
If there was something on there that we didn't physically hear ourselves.
I kind of grazed a couple of them, like as I was listening, and didn't really hear anything. But our experiences were very cool. I mean, just from what we were doing. If I miss anything, just let me know. But
but it was such a weird dynamic that you'd be in the one part of the building, which is where like there was like the dining room and where the warden and a lot of the prison guards or whatever lived in there, that is still very like 1920s 1930s like ceramic tile floors, and although it wasn't like pristine condition, it was like, this is like super nice for like an old place. And then you'd like open a door and then you'd see like the roughest conditions, like the ceilings falling in, the floors all buckling. It was such a strange transition from one place, one area to the next. You're like, this is so nice, and I mean, it just, when we pulled in, like on the outside of the building, it looks just like in the movies, like the building is absolutely beautiful. Then you go inside and like I said, parts of it are still very beautiful and old, and then you get to the prison parts, and it's just like the stuff that nightmares are made of.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I would say the prison bars, they look like I would metaphor them to like what you would see in like the Titanic, like pictures of the Titanic, like the railings on the Titanic, like underwater, that like rusted paint's kind of falling off, kind of thing. Again, I can't stress this enough, to have full range of like, you can't go in this room, you can't go in that room. There was none of that. It was just like, the only room we couldn't go in was the shower room, which apparently is a very good spot to go in. But I think because of safety reasons or something, there was something going on there. They had to close it down. We had that lady on a month, 2 months ago or something like that. And she said that
Denise.
We had Denise on, and she had told us like that's where she had her best experience there, which was she set up flashlights and asked, like, I think she like asked the ghost, or her daughter asked the ghost if they wanted her to dance for them, like, because she was a ballet dancer, and they said yes. And then she started dancing, and then she had flashlights set up, and they were like basically turning off and on. They were like away from them. They were like literally like flashing. So like kind of she was like able to dance in the light for them. And it, and the equipment that we had, as I had a recorder, and then I found out actually mid tour that there was an app called, what was it called? Ghost Box, I think that's what it's called. Oh, Ghost Tube. So I had because we were in that one room and somebody was like playing with an app, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Can I
in the chair room? Yeah,
we were in the chair room. So I was like, oh, so we had. I actually would like to go in with better recording equipment next time, because I think what I had was a little more gravelly, and I was like, I could barely understand me, let alone anybody else or anything else that would have been in the room. Like it's hard to decipher. But that being said, we were in the chair room. We were in the chair room for a long time. The chair room is a basically a room with one chair in the middle, and it was an interrogation room. It was cool. We just kind of went in there and just, I don't know, we were probably in there for like an hour, maybe yeah. Maybe 45 minutes, something like that. Your brother was sleeping on the floor at one point. it's like I'm just gonna take a nap. I don't, maybe he's just resting his eyes. I don't know. It's like, is your brother asleep?
I think he said his back was hurting or something. He wasn't sleeping. He was just laying on the floor. But it's just a straight up wood floor. You know.
Yeah.
There's one wooden chair in the room, and the rest of us are just sitting on the floor.
So we were in that room, and we had our dowsing rods, which, if you don't know what dowsing rods are, it's essentially two pieces of copper, like a rod of copper that is bent to a 90-degree angle with like basically a coupling on it that you put in so they kind of can run loose. And if they cross, that means yes. If they're open, that means no. If you believe in any of this at all. But essentially you just ask questions, and based off of like how that goes is how the yes or no's. So you kind of find your way to the answer. And then a few people had other ones that would kind of like speak, would say like random words, which honestly, sometimes I was like, this could say anything depending on where you're at. If you're in the Target parking lot, like it wouldn't be scary. But if you're in a dark room and it's like, go, you're like, me, you know, but you're like, go.
It was weird though, because at times, you know, the words that would come through, you know, the phone was on topic of the questions that we were asking. So they weren't just very generic stuff. It was specific things that was like, oh, that's weird. Like,
yeah. So I mean, a lot of this, like, if you brought a skeptic there, they'd be like, well, it's just, you know, this is just the app talking. You know, it could say anything. But if you're just there, I mean, listen, I've said this 1,000 times. Just open up and have fun with it. Who cares? You're there with people who are there to do the same thing you are. So have the fun that you're going to have while you're there. Get spooky, get scared. That's what we're there for. So, you know, just come into this, open your heart, enjoy it. You know, push out all the stuff that goes like, this isn't true. It doesn't matter. So that's what we went in doing. And we were the wonderful group of people. Denise was amazing. And what were the name of the other people? I'm so bad at
it. Helen was the one that put it on.
And, yes. So I actually wanted to proper shout out.
So Helen Gabriel put it on.
Helen Gabriel,
I hung out with Denise and Leanne and Diana, Sonia, Gretchen, Maggie.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously we were there with Scott and Carrie and you know, a whole bunch of other people, but they couldn't have been nicer and couldn't have been, you know, more helpful in getting around and showing us around the place. And I mean, it was just an absolute blast. And honestly, the food was pretty good too. I'm just saying.
Food was so good. They had like barbecue brisket. I was just like, this is like, if it was just this, I'd be fine right now. If they're just like, hey, there's just a cool building and you got to leave in like 10 minutes, but like, we're going to eat this brisket. I'd be like, that was a good day. It was really good. Mac and cheese brisket, you know, all the fixings. You know, cornbread. Oh, dude, I don't get enough cornbread in my life. It just never really goes into my stratosphere. And when it does, man, the Southern boy in me comes out. I'm just like, my Mississippi roots go like, ooh boy, like, get so excited. Oh man,
yeah, I was ready for a nap before we went walking around after that dinner.
I know, it's after 3. What are you talking about? I'm sleeping now. So we were in the building, we were in the chair room, and like I said, this is the place that people would have been interrogated or, you know, talking to or whatever. So that was really cool to kind of experience. Just being in there and just kind of being alone. There were so many people in there though. I think we went like 10 deep into this room just talking.
But it was, for the most part, it was the same group that we were walking around with, you know, loosely. Yeah. But I mean, there was, what was there, 42 people as part of our group. Like, so, I mean, there was times when we just were in areas completely by ourselves. Other times when we come across other people, because there's certain hot spots and everybody wants to, you know, hit up those places. But
Yeah.
It wasn't like all 42 people were in the same place at one time. I mean, there was times when we were up in the, in the cell blocks where we were the only ones there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, there's like three or four stories to the cell blocks, so you could pretty much be on the
there's
floor
6 stories. Yeah, there were 6 stories.
So, yeah, but we were in the chair room, and so the experience that we had there, again, open your heart, open your mind, have a fun time. Some things that we figured out, it basically the apps that they had, it was like, what's your name? And then a name that came up was it Amelia? Yeah, Amelia, and she'd be like, say, my name is Amelia, and we're like, okay, and then we're trying to suss out, do you like us speaking to you? She said yes,
and we're doing this in coordination with the dowsing rods and the phone apps at the same time. So like, we were asking yes or no questions. It wasn't always coming through the phone, but it was lining up with what the dowsing rods were saying.
Yeah. And then somebody was like, I was trying to think while I was doing it. I was like, listen, I wonder if there's two things. So it's like, if you're a ghost, you get kind of asked the same questions like all the time. Is what's your name? Are you scared to be here? Whatever. And I was like, what's like a question they haven't like thought about, whatever, or like been asked a billion times. If it's not just a circular path for them, where they're kind of like, oh, my name's Amelia. Yes, it was horrific when I died. Like, I just keep thinking, like, I bet they're annoyed by that question. So I was like trying to think of stuff to ask them that was like maybe a little sillier. Just because I'm just like, I wonder if they're really like, oh, this guy's cool. Just always like, in that sense of like,
this guy's cool. I'm not gonna follow him home and haunt him the rest of his life.
I don't know if anybody's like me, but every time I go to like the store, I try to be really chummy with the guy who's like the guy or girls checking me out, because I want them to be like, that guy was pretty cool. I want them to like me so bad, and I'm just kind of like, you have a great day. You keep getting it, and they're like, yeah, and the finger guns as I leave, and they're just kind of like, I got a good day. So like I had that same thought when I was like I hope they like me kind of thing. And but so we were asking questions, and somebody was like, is there a boy that you were interested in? And they said no. And then I was like, was there a girl that you were interested in? She said yes. So we're like, oh, okay. And then so I was like, did they know you were into them? And they said yes. And then we started asking about the relationship, if it was open. And then I can't remember if they said it was open or not. But and then suddenly it was like witchcraft, and we're like, were you into witchcraft? And she said yes, and we're like, oh. And then was it horseback riding? She was really into horseback riding. Well, not really. I don't know her level of enthusiasm, but but then I as it went along, I was like, just so you know, Amelia, you're a lesbian witchcraft. Or you're a lesbian
horseback riding witch.
If you were alive now, you'd be pretty cool. She's just like, and everybody started laughing. But
then we asked like if she was ever about to be married or was going to get married or whatever, and then that's when it as the dowsing rods went the no on the phone app came through, and it said not even close, and we were like, whoa, like, that was crazy.
And I forgot about that. Yeah, that was really cool. It was just like not even close. And we're like, oh, like that's one of those moments you're like, well, like there's something to that. Like we were specifically asking, like, were you married? And not even close.
Yeah, not even close.
So I mean that was the interrogation room. So if you ever go there, check that place out. I mean, there's literally just a chair in the middle of the room. That's it. So you can find it. We were in the attic for a while. Our friend Carrie, your sister-in-law. She said at one point in the attic, not this trip, but a previous trip, she was playing Johnny Cash. And then she turned it to a different song, and then her phone started going crazy, and then it went back to Johnny Cash. So we try to recreate that moment, but sometimes lightning in the bottle, man, just hits once, but that's her little tale.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about the attic was that I guess there was another state prison or something where there was a fire or something where they had to take the prisoners out for a while to like rebuild it or something. So they took the prisoners from that prison and put them up in the attic here, where it was just one, giant room. It was just a great big attic. There was no cell blocks, nothing like that. And they just housed, however many prisoners that were in there uncelled. And I guess it was pretty violent, and some people got, killed up there or whatever. But the cool thing was that you'd shine your flashlight on the wall, and it was just like captured all this history. Everybody wrote on the wall, like where must have been where their beds were or whatever. But like the little doodles, and like they'd sign their names, and it would say like, my name's, Dale. I was here from March of 1931 to February of 35, and it'd have they put their prisoner number on there. Like there was just all of this history on the walls. There was pictures of like naked ladies that they doodled. I think there was a car or an airplane at one point I saw, but it was just like all over the wall were just these doodles of these guys that it must have been for a couple years, in the early 30s when they were housed there. And I thought that was just so cool to walk through there and just see this history written on the wall.
Like literally written on the wall. Oh, so neat. Yeah. And then the back room, there was it was originally closed, but it got opened at some point by somebody. I don't remember if that was somebody who worked there was like, oh yeah, we just forgot to open it. But in this back room that kind of goes like around or whatever, and it's next to the boiler, there's these nooses that are in the ceiling that they were like, you can't even reach them. I don't even know how they got up there. And then I ended up being a spry young man and being like, I'm going up there. So I climbed this like really rickety ladder like up, and I found out there's like another platform. So I was like, oh, that's how you get up there. You literally just climb and you climb again. So like a long time ago, for whatever reason, they hung up 2 nooses for fun. I don't know. I don't know why, but I mean, they couldn't have been higher up. I mean, like,
they were like 50 feet in the air. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like so high in the air. So I don't know if they were just kind of like, listen, you're not coming down from this. Even if that news breaks, you're dying. Like you're hitting the ground. So that was kind of a little morbid spot. But I was able to scare your brother at one point. There was a little hole in the wall and these little like slots, like kind of like a shower room sort of.
Oh, you're starting to scare me here. There's a hole in the wall, and you scared him? What are we talking about here?
And I was just like, get to work. It was like on the bottom, and I stuck my hand through when I knew he was in that room, and I like stuck it through the wall, and he was like, and he's like, you actually got me. I was like, yes. Then what was the other? So there's a room that had, or there's a cell that has back in whenever one of the people like caught himself on fire.
Wait, he lit himself on fire, and I don't know how he was able to do that. Like nobody checked him for, but likely would have been matches back then. In the 30s.
So I mean, pretty significantly too, because like other officers who tried to like get to him also suffered burns. So like I literally just don't know how that went down. But he has a little plaque on his thing to kind of commemorate that history or whatever. And my big thing when the whole thing was to walk around and give offerings, and my offering was a cigarette, because I felt like as a ghost who's back in the 30s who would be in this place would be like, oh, I love a cigarette, like whatever. But I also did it in that room, which felt like a slap in the face, really. Would you like a cigarette? The how you died.
He's like, no, I'd like a bucket of water, please.
If you have anything cooling, really. Do you have like an icy hot or something?
some aloe,
maybe a cooling pack, if you will, a cup of ice. But so I this is my favorite part. Was that I was in that room, and I was kind of like, I'd like to be like kind of alone and just be like here. So I was in there, and I think you guys were maybe a little off. I think you had come by at that point, but like I'm sitting in there by myself with that app that kind of like says the words to you or whatever. And it wasn't saying much to me really at all ever. It's just every like maybe 10 minutes or so, it would say like one word. But I'm sitting in that room, and it said 2 things. And those 2 things are something you don't want to hear when you're alone in a room that someone died in the dark. And those words were, get out, and it's hiding. I was like, oh no. And I like ran out of there. I was just like, no, thank you. I was like, no, thank you. And they're like, and then I ran into you guys, and you're just like, what? I was like, it just said, get out, and it's hiding. I'm like, I don't know where it's hiding. There's not a lot of places to go here, but
and that was at like 2 a.m, and we're like on the 3rd floor of the cell block. It's pitch black. You could see. I mean, we walked like the whole length of the cell block all the way around. Like you and Scott and I did it separately. Carrie was a big chicken and wouldn't do it. But I mean, it's basically pitch black. There was at times in certain rooms, there was a little bit of ambient light coming through the big windows from the actual prison that's now a working prison that's behind it. So sometimes it wasn't pitch black. It was just like 95% total darkness. But it's creepy as hell. And you walk down the thing, and it's only I don't know. I mean, I felt like there was only like a couple inches on each side of my shoulder before, you have the bars that keep you from falling off down to the bottom, and then the cells, like it wasn't wide enough for two people. It was like, I'm a bigger dude, but it was like, I felt pretty contained. And then you go into the cells, which are even, smaller.
Yeah, even smaller.
But we walk around there, and we were like the only ones in the cell blocks, like 50 yards long. I mean, it's a huge.
Oh, yeah.
The East Block is like the largest freestanding cell block that was ever built, and we were like the only 4 people in the entire area, and we were basically walking that thing by ourselves, and it was so creepy.
Yeah,
but it was so much fun.
Man, it was beautiful. Yeah, I mean, well, I did walk that block, being like, oh, I'm gonna like really brave it up, and because you had just done the walk, I was like, I want to do the walk, so I did the walk, and I walked with that app that like talked to you. I was like walking, and I got like halfway through it, and then I got to the really dark spot where there was no ambient light. It was like I literally had to put my hand out because I was like, I don't want to hit anything or fly over the edge or something. And then I was like, no, thank you on this app. I don't want this thing to say anything to me. I don't want to be like halfway around this thing and it's like, come here. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Because it started to get like the darker it got, the more like kind of you just started thinking like a hand could just run out, whatever. Even though there's been no documented cases of anybody dying from a ghost, I just didn't want any of that smoke. I was like, no, thank you.
And it was, we ended up the one point where we lost Scott, and we ducked into the parole room. I don't know if it was literally the parole room when it was the prison, but it was from in the movie Shawshank when Red goes in, and hit it for his different parole hearings. That's where the 3 chairs are set up at the table. We sat in there for a while.
I don't give a damn what you put on that paper.
And so that was the cool thing. It was parts of the prison are still set up just like it was in the movie. So you're walking around and you're literally seeing that kind of stuff. But
you're just behind the desk at the parole room. You're like, wow, like Morgan Freeman was right here.
He was standing right here. And but we were sitting in there waiting for Scott. We had a little bit of activity as well. Did you remember?
I'm trying to remember the keywords, and they don't save in the app, unfortunately. But we were just we were there for a while, just kind of
it's just
having a moment with it, because we were just like, well, we got time. Because the one guy was like, well, the reason why we stayed there was the one guy was like, I actually got a lot of activity in here. And then he was like, right before he left us, he goes, are you guys cold? And I'm like, no, I'm actually sweating. Like, I'm so sweaty. He goes, I am freezing. He's like, I am so cold. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know what's going on with you, man. Maybe he's just getting a flu. We hugged him and kissed him. But so he left. He was like, we got some good activity in here. We're like, okay. And we sat down, and we were just asking, like, who's here? Or do you like people being here? Would you like a cigarette? Things like that. And then we didn't get much for a while, and then all of a sudden, I forget what were the questions we asked. It was like, are we cool? Or do you think we're cool?
That was the last one. There was a couple ones before that where I can't remember exactly what it was.
I was asking him questions, and then it said drowned, and I took it as like drowned, like go walk in the ocean. Just like, okay. And then what was it? I was like, what, you don't think I'm
saying, like you were saying earlier, like the cashier at the grocery store, like you're trying to make them think that you're cool, so then you say
yeah. And I was like, oh, do you? Well, then I was like, what was the other thing I said? I was like, do you? I was like, don't make fun of me. I was like, not cool, bro. And then he was like, inferior.
Yeah, that's what it was, inferior. Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then he was like, I didn't know we were in the sassy ghost area. So we were talking about that. And then I was like, do you guys, what was it? I was like, do you think that we're cool?
Mm-hmm.
And then what did it say back? I don't remember.
It said guilty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Guilty. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm guilty.
Taking that as a yes.
Yeah. So these are the things that we do. We ask ghosts if we're cool, and they tell us to drown.
Yeah. But it was so interesting. Like when we first got there, and we saw the people doing the dowsing rods things, and I've seen that like on TV, and I've seen it when they actually used it to find water on the ground, stuff like that, like on TV. I've never seen it in person, but parts of me were always just like, you could just move it, or who knows what that's all about. But there was times when they were just like, here, you hold them, and people were taking. And at one point, I was holding them essentially for the most part, had my eyes closed. People were asking questions, and I didn't get as much activity as other people did.
Mm-hmm.
But those things moved on their own. I was, because I'm like, I'm not moving these, that's moving on. I don't know how or why it's moving, but it's not me, And so I thought that was pretty interesting, because I was like, as it slides in that coupling, it's like, because I'm thinking, you could just move to answer the question, but like somebody else was asking the question. I had my eyes closed and at times couldn't see, what it was doing. So wouldn't have known how to move it or not. So I thought that was, pretty interesting, that I'm like, these were answering questions and I was not doing anything. So I was, that added a whole layer for me where I was just like, okay, well, I'm buying into this a little more than I had in the past. But and I think, when we've talked before, on other shows, where I think if you're the kind of person where you're in tune to that kind of stuff, you're more likely to, have other experiences, things like that. Like, there's the people like me that have no real good experiences, than other people have, multiple ones. And I think that's like, if you put out that kind of wavelength and you are in tune with that kind of stuff, you get more. So I think some of these people, they've done this before, they don't have as big of a wall up as maybe I do or something, but I just wasn't putting out like the best vibe for, that's why I only had a few questions that really got answered with me, but other people at other times were getting, multiple ones.
Yeah. And I feel like I wanted it too bad.
Yeah.
It's like, please give me all your spirits. And it was like, no, thank you. It's like when you're dating somebody and they just like want to, like, I love you. And you're like, we're cool.
You just got friend zoned by the ghosts.
Like, I think of you as a brother. You're like, oh no.
And, when we went down, we went down there multiple times, but like the last time we went down into solitary, when it was like 2:30 in the morning, and you and I and Scott were like going through like some of the cells, and Carrie was just sitting down on the steps. She was getting some activity where somebody was talking about, death, and talked about like grave, and I think cell, and a bunch of other things.
I feel like they told her to leave at one point too. They're like, get her out of here, is what it said, or something like that.
And so because we were walking, and then she didn't want to walk back there with us, so she was just sitting by the steps doing her own thing.
Yeah.
And then I came around and heard some of it, and I'm I took a picture of one of I came in like right at the end, where I have a picture of the word that was on there, and it was insanity. It was because hers would like say it, and then it would write out the word or whatever it was saying.
Yeah.
And so it talked about like grave, cell, death, insanity. Like those were like the words that were coming out, from her app. And then it was just like, please leave. We were like, all right, it's getting kind of late. But,
gotta go. But I mean, I would say at the very least, like, it was just so cool to be there, like that late. And then I don't think I've ever been more exhausted. I got home and slept till 4 the next day. I got
not only did we not get home till like after 4 in the morning, but on my Fitbit, I walked like 15,000 steps. I swear 12,000 of them were going upstairs.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, let's check out the fourth floor.
3/4 of the way through. Yeah, 3/4 of the way through, somebody's like, well, you could take the elevator. I'm like, there's an elevator? Like, what are you talking about?
I know. Yeah, I remember like the 5th time I was in the chapel, like all of a sudden the elevator doors open. I'm like, there's an elevator here? I'm so mad.
And, man. I mean, we went all the way up at the top where they had the TV room, and it was like, you're like, man, I couldn't even imagine like just how people were housed in there and how horrific conditions would have been.
The TV room was really cool though. Like, I mean, just like the movie room, like it's the place to view, and that was a cool room. We were there for a while, just like kind of like taking it in.
We just sat in there for a while in the dark, and it was crazy. Some of the places, the floor's buckling, the ceiling's falling down. Like there's like not asbestos. Well, probably was asbestos, but plaster from the ceiling that's like freshly on. It's like they hadn't cleaned or if they had, it'd fallen since the last time it was cleaned.
Like in the attic, I remember there was like a giant panel that's just like hanging, and I'm like, you think they would like knock that down? That is probably hanging by plaster alone, and then it's just gonna whap one day, and we're just walking freely up there. So
it was like walking through as is, like no tour guides. You're bumping into stuff. You're hitting your head. I mean, some of those pipes down in the solitary. Scott and I were walking through there, like bent over. Like the ceiling was like 6 foot tall. The pipe's sticking down like another foot, and like we were like walking straight bent over. And but yeah, then it was so cool.
Yeah,
I loved every minute of it.
Situation. It also helps to be a spry young. I'm not a spry young man, but like, well, I am a spry man, but I'm also just. I climbed to the top of the boiler and was just like, I'm going up there, and they're like, I'm like, can I go up there? And they're like, the door's open, you're allowed to go up there. I'm like, sweet. So I just like went up this rickety ladder, like I said earlier, and was just like, I wanted to like find just like the spots that there wasn't 100 people in, or because there's every place is just accessible to everybody, so like everybody's in those spaces, and I was just like, I want to find like the spot that no one's going in, and a lot of these people are like older, and they're like, maybe these can't do that anymore, and I'm just like, I can. So I'm like climbing stuff and like trying to get to spots that like just like look into weird spaces and try to get to what I can. But I don't know,
and then as the night went on, people went home because they didn't want to stay the whole time. But I mean, when we were there at like 2:30 in the morning, there was maybe 10 people in the whole place.
Yeah, I think that's where we did a lot of our like just like cell block stuff.
Yeah,
like, oh, let's try and get in the cell block and do the whole thing, which is so much creepier than you think it will be. Like in your head, you're like, oh, I'll just be like, I'm just gonna sit in there and I'm gonna talk and it's gonna be cool. And then you sit in like the darkest cell and you're like, this is so scary. Like I'm gonna be here for a minute.
whether you see a ghost or your big ghost is talking to you, or just being in there, like you could have no activity at all, and you're like, I literally have nightmares about this right now.
Yeah, this is like the worst place to be. And but I never got like a sense of dread or cold. I didn't feel any cold spots, at least. I was sweating for the most part, just like walking everywhere. Kind of a little overdressed because I thought it was going to be colder.
Yeah, me too.
But because
that was the other weird thing when about halfway through, because I had my blue Adidas sweatshirt on that I wear, and I took it off and put it in like the little lunchroom or break room where we had our barbecue. Took it off and left it with our stuff, and then when we came back to leave, I picked it up and looked at it, and there was a handprint like on the shoulder, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a handprint on this, and I was like, oh, somebody must have picked it up or grabbed it in here and had something on their hand, what I didn't think anything. And then you were like, I saw that handprint on you when you were still wearing it before you took it off. And then I was like, what?
I just assumed you put your hand on something and like wiped it or something, and you were like, no.
Maybe I did. I don't know, but it wasn't. It was like smaller than my hand. It was like,
it
would have been somebody else's hand or something. So that's why I was like, oh, somebody must have just, because I just left it on the one table by like our bag of stuff, and I was like, somebody probably just picked it up and moved it or something. But then you were like, that handprint was on there when you were still wearing it. So then it was like,
it was also like a whap, like like it was like. Yeah. Somebody was like pushing. If somebody was like pushing you, it's kind of like how the handprint would have been. Like, hey, get out of here, get out. It's hiding.
But I never had anything where I felt pushed or anything like that. But
I mean, again, somebody could have just been in the break room and like hit you and you just put it on or whatever, and you didn't hear it. But it was at the same time. It's like, open your heart, have a good time with it. Maybe it was bring ghosts. So yeah, man, it was wonderful. I can't wait to go next year again. Actually, we got invited to do other stuff with Denise. She was actually going to she told us about this dog farm that this guy said that these people were going across the country, and like their car broke down or something horrific happened. But one of the guys who lives there said that there's this lady in the red dress who just like appears in their parking lot. It's just standing there, and then when he goes out there, they're gone. But they were going to investigate that, and she was like, "You want to come?" I was like, that is on Sunday, and I've already been gone all night tonight." So I was like, I doubt that. Like, I'm just gonna peace out for my family the whole week. They'd be like, "No,
we have."
Weekend. Yeah. Oh yeah. We have holiday weekend. We had like 5 parties to go to. I was like, probably not, but I will go to anything else.
Yeah, I definitely want to do some work. It kind of go back a week or two ago when I guess it was 2 weeks ago when we interviewed Jamie, and he talked about how he and his wife were there, and they were part of the group of people that cleaned that place up when they first started doing tours. And as we were walking around, and I was looking at it, I'm like, "This is you guys clean this up? What did it look like before?"
I know. I mean, well, to be fair, I mean, like we're sitting on that floor in the interrogation room, and I was thinking, like, oh, this floor is like clean, like it's not like
in the nicer parts of the building. I'm thinking like the cell, like he talked about how they take the they had to take all the mattress out of the cells and the weird.
Oh yeah, that stuff was just there. Like I was like, I mean, it's not like filthy or anything, but it's not like clean either. But yeah, it was wonderful. I'm the one lady was mad because it is kind of turning into more of a movie tour, and she's like, this place has so much history. It's so much more than like the 3 movies that were filmed here and the one Lil Wayne video. But I was just like, yeah, I mean, like that's just what it is. What are you gonna do? I don't know. But so we'll see how that goes. I was just like, well, maybe it's made a way to make money. Everything's kind of about that. And she's just like, yeah, but this place makes money already. Like it doesn't need it. It's federally funded. And I'm like, oh yeah, what are you gonna do? But it is what it is. If you ever stayed with it this long, I would like to share with you. It is almost summer, guys. So I want to share with you a summer cocktail that you can make yourself. I'm going to call this the Summertime Sasquatch, and that's sass with a double S. So
it's super sassy.
1 part bourbon, 1 part peach liqueur, and 1 part hemp soda water, which I've found out recently is a thing, and is apparently has a calming thing. So if you just want to chill out in the sweet summer sun, drink your Summertime Sasquatch. Sasquatch. I didn't even hit the double S. Get into it. And then so wonderful tour. If you guys know of any places that like are near Ohio or around Ohio for us to visit as far as like haunted places, I would love to check them out, because that was so cool. Even just old buildings in general that have cool tours that you can just kind of get let loose in. Super fun.
I want to get into some of that downtown Cleveland stuff we talked about recently. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that and get up some of those places.
There's a ton of stuff. I mean, like Cleveland is a spooky, weird history, especially with like the torso murders and stuff like that. We got Elliot Ness, all the things. So, so thank you for joining us every Friday at 5. We are live. I don't think the next 2 weeks we will not be, but I will try to. You have a vacation you're going on, but we'll see what we can do as far as that goes. We're not sure of our plan yet, but we join us every Friday at 5. We're still at least on. And then if you want to check us out on Facebook, Monster Soup Podcast, that's where we are. And if you have an email us any cool stories, if you want to come on, monstersouppodcast@gmail.com, share your stories, have some fun. And then if you want to follow my cool art that I do, Mischief Factory on TikTok and Instagram and such. And thank you very much for joining us, and stay spooky out there. And Brian, you stay spooky as well, buddy.
All right, get into it. We'll see you.
Get into it later.